Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I gotta say is, who that? Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition, we have a special friend to the room. I don't even want to call him a guest. I'm sure pretty much all of you know who this is. He's a hardworking brother, loves the New Orleans Saints. You can check him out on Sports Coma on YouTube, and I always enjoy talking to him. A good friend of mine, ladies and gentlemen. We got Big Q in the building. Q, what's going on, man?
What's up, TJ? How you doing, sir? Appreciate you, man. Much love, brother.
Man, I'm doing great, outstanding, man, and thank you so much for stopping by to talk to us, man. You know, we've had like an exciting conversation before the show even started. Shouts out to everybody in the chat, by the way, man. I know a lot of people have been talking about, us, collabing and getting together, man. It's always great to do so. My first question to you don't have anything to do with the Saints, which you already know. We were talking about boxing behind the scenes. One fight, man, everybody's been talking about Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. Yeah. A big time fight, man. Yeah. Terrence Crawford going up 2 weight classes to take on Canelo. What are your thoughts on that, man? Do you think Canelo is just going to run through Bud, or do you feel like Bud has a chance?
TJ, I think Bud does have a chance, bro. Anytime you got somebody as good as Terrence Bud Crawford, man, I call him a slick master boxer. I mean, he's intelligent in the ring, bro. He's switchable styles, bro, orthodox and southpaw. If one style doesn't work, he shifts to the other one midstream, and then there are fights where you've seen him switch back and forth, and it literally dumbfounds fighters. Right. So I mean, he's impeccable, man, an intelligent fighter. And Canelo, man, Canelo's also very intelligent. The power of Canelo, very intelligent in the ring. So it's going to be a difficult fight, man. A lot of people seeing it as Canelo one way all the way through, but man, you got to give Bud Crawford an opportunity, man. You know what he can do, man.
Man, I never go against Bud Crawford. That's just me, man. I haven't seen a fighter like him like in a long time. Like he reminds me a lot of like Marvin Hagler, like when it comes to like his style, but more so like Sugar Ray Leonard as well. Like how he can be able. He's like a hybrid between Marvin Hagler, because he has like this mean streak and he has that punching power. But he has that. But he also has that Sugar Ray Leonard like mind frame. Like Sugar Ray Leonard was able to like dissect fighters. Like the first couple rounds, it'll probably be towards that particular fighter, and then once he understands what that fighter is doing, he basically just dominates. So I mean, Bud, to me, man, I just think that he's just a generational talent, man. But I'm looking forward to the fight, man. I'm just happy that we're actually seeing some fighters that people want to see, and not guys like ducking one another, waiting for maybe one boxer to get old and maybe lose that punch of power. Kind of like Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao. Like they should have fought like way before they end up doing so, man. So, I'm just looking forward to a good fight. We've been having some really good fights thanks to Riyadh Season and Turk Al Sheikh. So hopefully we'll get another one coming up in September, right? I think they fight in September if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, so sometimes around in September, I remember they announced the fight. I
Yeah.
mean, but yeah, TJ, it's going to be a fight for the ages, man, and based on the numbers, bro, you never know, it might be 2 fights or more based
Right.
on how the numbers go, bro. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, especially like if they end up like going to a decision, and like you said, it's kind of
Mhm.
nip tuck. So
Yes.
yeah, I think you can get a couple fights out of this. Hopefully you get a trilogy because they just both bring everything that they have. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit of New Orleans Saints, man. I mean, man, the 2025 season, the off season is here, and the Saints made some moves like we were happy about. Justin Reed, Devon Godshaw, 2 guys that have come to the team, but also some guys that we were kind of shocked that the Saints end up bringing back. I talked a little bit about that from my perspective. But Q, what about you, man? I mean, these offseason moves by Mickey Loomis and bringing back some of these usual suspects, some guys that I thought maybe would end up being on another team. But what's your perspective on that?
Kind of, well, be honest with you, TJ. I kind of figured as much. I know we ain't had the most imaginative man running the team. So when they did, when they decided to say, "Hey, man, let's just bring them all back and run it at him again," I wasn't really surprised, to say the least. But Devin Gotcho, you mentioned him. I do like him. I think a lot of people. We were talking about him on our streams early in the weekend. Hey, bro, he's not a player that kind of jumps off the tape, but he is a guy that is incredibly active. He is one of the things that we need. He is productive from that tackle position, bro. And on top of that, he's a guy that is available. Over the last 4 years with the Pats, bro, he played 17 games a season, and we definitely could use some of that energy in the interior of the defensive line. So I think that's a very under the cover type signing, bro. The Reed signing, bro, was just he knocked it out of the park with that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that signing. I thought that was really awesome signing. And then, of course, there are, the Juwan Johnson thing was a kind of a head scratcher to me. I didn't think the Saints would pivot and go with Juwan Johnson. I thought they probably would go in a different direction, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, man, yeah, there are a few pretty good ones and some other ones kind of head scratchers, bro.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The Juwan Johnson experience to me, I'm not saying that he's a bad player because he's not, but I just think that what the Saints expect for him to be, I don't think he's going to be able to live up to it. I think a lot of his stats came towards the end of the season where you're basically playing with practice squad guys. And I just think, and we know Spencer Rattler, he likes to utilize those tight ends in the middle of the field. So I don't know, man. I just feel like you probably could have got a tight end in the draft, a young guy, could have been a Kellen Moore guy, bring in and kind of utilize him the way that he wants. But I don't know, man. I look at Mickey Loomis, and man, I've said this on several occasions. This is a guy to me that it seems like everybody else understands what's going on except for him. And I mean, seriously, like this dude like just continues to like to double and triple down on these decisions, man. And it's like he makes it feel like everybody else is insane but him. And I don't like it, man. I don't. I feel like he is trying to prove a point here versus trying to win some football games. I mean, I've seen your podcast and I've heard you talk quite a bit about Mickey Loomis, and I understand your thoughts, but for the person that may not understand your point of view when it comes to Mickey Loomis, what are your thoughts on the GM?
I take a deep breath on that, TJ, because this is a family show. But hey, bro, but the thing is, bro, to be honest with you, bro, you're 1,000% correct, bro. I think Mickey Loomis is past his prime. I think we should have had another general manager to come in and kind of steady this thing. And you're absolutely right, bro. As usual, bro, you hit it on spot on, man. The design of the team, man, it's not what's hitting for. We should have rebooted this thing. We did not need to do the thing with Derek Carr. I know you're going to talk about that. But yeah, the Mickey Loomis plan, bro, what he's doing, man, it's just not something that it's agreeable or even what you would consider sustainable. It doesn't make a lot of it doesn't make sense, and I don't think Mickey Loomis is governing from a position of logic. I think it's more coming from arrogance and it just stubbornness, which is not how you don't run anything like that. And his not being accountable and I guess there's nobody else to keep him accountable. But outside of that, I just feel like his decision making is very questionable, to say the least, bro.
Yeah, I just think that once again he's trying to prove a point.
Right.
He's upset that Gail Benson, Dennis Lauscher kind of forced his hand, fired Dennis Allen. He probably didn't feel. I ain't no probably. He felt that Dennis Allen should have still been with his team. And looking at some of these decisions that he made in his offseason, you got to believe that Dennis Allen would have been a head coach in 2025 if it was up to him. I just think that Mickey Loomis has to separate business from his own personal feelings about the situation. Like right now, I just feel like he wants to put this team together with Kellen Moore, and he feels like they're going to win 8 or 9 games. And I'm on record saying this, Big Q, and I'm going to say this again.
Okay.
Since he wants to act as if, we can't hit the reset button, I feel like it's only right that the organization should judge him accordingly, because the way that he's rolling, like nothing was wrong with this football team for the exception of injuries. So if the Saints go out there in 2025 and don't live up to expectations, I think the writing should indeed be on the wall when it comes to Mickey Loomis. And if it's not, then I'm really looking at Gail Benson and Dennis Lauscher a little bit funny when it comes to it, because the fan base understood that this team needed to hit the reset button and was preparing themselves for a season that may be a little bit of a downer, but they were okay because 2026 would have produced maybe the future quarterback if Spencer Rattler wasn't the guy. You have your salary cap up to par. You got more money to deal with and bring some guys in. But the fact that he's running it back with the usual suspects, I just think that we need to take a look at that and be like, okay, since you feel like nothing's wrong, then we need to evaluate you accordingly. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But what are your thoughts on Gail Benson? I mean, I think last season she showed like a side of herself that a lot of people didn't think that she had by forcing Mickey Loomis to fire Dennis Allen. But what are your thoughts on Gail Benson? Your feelings about her? Do you think she has what it takes to make sure that this team is going in the right direction?
So incomplete grade on that, TJ, because I mean, you've seen and throughout the history with Gail Benson running the team, it was 2 situations in particular that comes to mind when she actually got upset enough to do something about it. The Anthony Davis situation with the Pelicans, where she got upset what happened with the whole debacle with AD, and she went down there and fired Dale Demps, forced him out. And then, of course, the situation with Dennis Allen, I think the family base, the support base was upset beyond measure, and the pressure of that, and plus players who didn't like Dennis Allen, was enough to force her hand, because she understood the economic implications of keeping that guy there. So it moved him up out of here, and I was proud of that. But she fell very short of completing the mission insofar as Dennis Allen was merely a symptom of the issue. The cause is Mickey Loomis. He should have been removed from the general manager position. If you love him so much, he has 2 hats. He's the vice president and the general manager of the team. Simply allowed him to keep the VP and promote Kai Arley to be the general manager, or bring another guy in, that's somebody that's younger with a more vaster vision, who's more accustomed to today's NFL, that could be able to navigate these tough, choppy waters of the NFL. So I would have to say incomplete, bro, because she did well enough to get Dennis out, but at the same time, she fell short of forcing the change to Mickey Loomis. So, that's the problem.
Yeah, when I look at Gail Benson, I mean, I don't really give her a hard time, because I always say, if Gail Benson didn't marry Tom Benson, I don't think she would be anywhere near football. Like, I'm serious. Like, I don't think
you're right, bro. You're right.
I don't think you'll find Gail Benson in section 100 leading the Who Dat chant.
No,
she just inherited this team from her late husband, and she's just trying to do the best that she possibly can. She got these football guys in, and she trusts them to make those decisions. But at the same time, I'm wondering to myself, if a person, understood the game fully, or maybe even if Tom Benson was still around, would some of these things be going on? I don't think so, man.
Absolutely not, bro.
I don't think so. I think a
Right.
lot of guys are made men, and I think that they understand that they ain't going anywhere. And I think they use that to their advantage at times. I mean, look,
Absolutely.
I'm not one of those people that just feels like Mickey Loomis hasn't done anything right, but
He done some stuff.
but everything happens, like time brings on a change. Like, you might have been in your prime and you might have done some amazing things, but as time go on, if you don't adapt, then you're going to get left behind. And I feel like a lot of the things that Loomis is doing, like, once again, he wants to prove that his way is still the way to go. But you look around the National Football League, you look at some of these GMs, man, they're young, they're fresh, they got these fresh ideas, and they're trying to steer their organizations in a certain direction. And I'm just wondering if Mickey Loomis just is too set in his ways. But he has to come out here and he has to prove that he still has it. But the Saints do have Kellen Moore as the head coach. Fired Dennis Allen, didn't bring back Darren Rizzi. They got Kellen Moore, waited around for him to the Super Bowl. Do you think that Kellen Moore is a good fit for the New Orleans Saints? Like, when you first heard that he was going to be the head coach, what was your first thoughts? And do you feel like he has what it takes, being so young, to be able to lead this football team?
When I first heard it, TJ, I was like, okay, because you kind of knew it for a while, when it broke down the coaching search, McCarthy and all these guys started to fall away. Then you kind of see who the guy was. So we kind of knew early on that it would have been Kellen Moore. And I wanted an offensive minded coach, to be honest with you. I wanted one with some experience at the head coaching level. But outside of that, I think Kellen Moore is fresh. He is a fresh pair of eyes there. A young, energetic coach, totally something different than what we thought that the Saints would do.
Right.
As opposed to stick to the Sean Payton ring or something like that. So he's definitely a different selection. I think it could work with Kellen Moore if the Saints, because everything fit perfectly. If you're going to go with a young, inexperienced coach, coming riding that Super Bowl energy from Philadelphia here, start the team again. Reset the team to work along with the youthful head coach that you have. And I'm pretty sure the mighty Who Dat Nation would have been really patient in that regard, because most of your opponents, your adversaries, bro, they've started their rebuilds already. They're well into 2 years, TJ, into some of their rebuilds. And we sitting here holding, one of the, this team together. So I think it could work, but it's also based upon, what the Saints are doing here. It's very curious, some of the moves they're making outside of having it. But I think Kellen Moore can have success here based upon if they can sync the moves to the mentality of what he's attempted to build and just develop the philosophy of the team. And I think if he can bring that, TJ, that's the biggest thing I have in terms of success. You have to have an identity and play behind that identity to establish success.
Yeah, I just think that it was one of those situations I feel like the Saints kind of fell into.
Yes.
He wasn't their first choice. I don't care what they trying to make it.
No, it was
Glenn. Yeah, he kind of just fell into their lap.
Right.
But I like Kellen Moore. I think that he's a smart guy. I mean, if you look at his track record, I mean, from him leaving the NFL as a player, and as soon as he steps down, he becomes a quarterback's coach. Man, that's unheard of. Like,
that is.
To have such a high position, like a year removed from your football life, is incredible. But I also feel like he's making these right decisions. But I want Mickey Loomis to work alongside him and also allow him to run this team the way that it needs to be ran. Like you were mentioning, like, they got to work hand in hand here. And he also got to be able to give this guy some levels of autonomy in order for him to be able to run this team. Like, he can't look at this guy like, oh, we trying to do the Sean Payton way and all these philosophies they've had in years past.
Right.
They have to embrace a new culture, man. I mean, it was a great culture in years past, but he got to allow Kellen Moore to do his thing. I found it fascinating, Q, that he didn't commit to Derek Carr in his first press conference. And that's something that stood out. And a lot of us talked about it. But, the Saints did decide to restructure Derek Carr. that was more so of their doing. It wasn't Derek Carr. Derek Carr didn't go to the Saints and say, I want to restructure. We haven't heard from him. A lot of backlash about him not showing up in New Orleans during the Super Bowl festivities. Derek Carr coming back to the New Orleans Saints in 2025. Is it something that the Saints can actually, I guess, build on? Maybe him winning a couple of games, or do you feel like the writing is kind of on the wall? Because, man, I've never seen a guy that is, so I just call it polarizing among Saints fans. I ain't never seen it like this. Like, he's not a bad quarterback, but it's like Saints fans have not embraced him. And what are your thoughts about that? Like, why do you think Saints fans haven't embraced Derek Carr the way that they have, like, a Teddy Bridgewater, a Jameis Winston? Why is that?
I think in part, bro, because it's a lot of money, man. It's an astronomical amount of money, $150 million, bro. When you pay a guy that kind of money, we want to see some real results. And and like I talk about in the mighty Who Dat Nation, bro, we don't like to hear all that talk. We're action folk. You know, you can miss us with all that talking and, we doing this and that and this guy this and and all this kind of rhetoric, because he got a lot of word salad with him and not enough action from him. Like I said, I don't have a problem with Derek Carr, the person. Like, I always differentiate between him and the player, but the player has not done enough to ingratiate himself to the mighty Who Dat Nation. And I think we know what a real quarterback looked like. So he's stepping in the building. We had one of the greats. We had really solid quarterback play from several players outside of Drew after he left. But when you give a guy that kind of money, 150, he has to step up, and you can't pull the wool all over our eyes. We have not seen enough to warrant, him to be just totally, we wrap our arms around him and bring him into the fold. So he feels with the mighty Who Dat Nation feel. We real. And you could just miss us with all that other extra stuff. Just come on with the success and no excuses, bro. So I think that's a major part of it.
Yeah. I look at, like, I watch a show. It's called The Boys on Prime. Like, it's a superhero show. And there's this character on the show. His name is Homelander. And Homelander is a superhero. He's the strongest superhero of all of those superheroes on the show. And in front of the public eye, like, everybody loves him. Like, everybody, like, Homelander, he's so great. He's so wonderful. He says the right things, does the right things. So people, kind of embrace him. But behind the scenes, like, he's a little bit of a jerk. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the people, like, he's complete opposite of what you actually see.
Right.
I look at Derek Carr. I'm not saying that he's a jerk, but I look at it from the same perspective as Homelander. Like, he says,
hold on, TJ. Hold on, TJ. So he's he
says the right things, does the right things, but I'm just wondering, like, is that his real feelings? Like, behind closed door, like, oh, okay, man, he's a team guy. Okay, man, like, he's saying, all the right things. Like you said, he's a wordsmith, but I'm just wondering, like, behind the scenes, like, is it really rocking like that? Like, it ain't the math ain't mathing. And
no, it's not,
and you mentioned this, cute. Like, man, you, like, being from the city, like you said, we ain't about all that talking stuff like that. Like, man, New Orleans people, we ain't that impressed, like, by just superstardom. Like, we ain't passing out in the street. Like, like, there's a reason why, celebrities talk about coming to New Orleans and walking down the street, nobody mess with them, and they like, man, nobody even recognize you. They recognize you, but you, like, bro, look, the person that's probably walking next to you, they probably feel like they're a bigger star than you. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, bro, we like that down here, man. It's like we see you over there. I seen Anthony Mackie walking. I was somewhere over there by with Lil Dizzy. And Anthony Mackie was, he lived not too far from there. He was down there. I seen him over there. I ain't gonna go over there. Wait, whatever. But that's just how we are. You're right, bro. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I just feel like they can also smell a phony a mile away. And dude, like I said, the math ain't mathing, man. Like, I just think that, you can say the right things, but your actions, like, prove otherwise. Like, yelling at Chris Olave when he didn't have anything to do with the route. He was basically just supposed to take, one of the defenders away from the route in order to set up the play. But he's complaining about it because he ain't delivered the ball. So he starts to deflect blame. like Chris Olave is a homegrown Saints guy. They drafted him, right? But I feel like he came in, a lot of people were comparing him to, Drew because, the family and having 4 kids, Drew got 4 kids, all this stuff. And I just think that he forgot one crucial thing. You have to go out there and you got to play. And,
That's right.
You making that type of money, Q, and the team, they squandering, squandering these opportunities. Like they in some of these games they have no business being in. And just because you throw a late pass that set up a field goal and you're like, whoo, well, like if the defense don't stop them, it ain't my fault. But I'm like, man, what have you done for the second and the third quarter? Like, what have you done throughout the game? Is my question. I just think that dude. I just think that dude just never embraced the city, and just like how they feel about Anthony Davis and some of these other guys that came through here. If you don't embrace the city, it will not embrace you back. If you show yourself disloyal, they'll never forgive you for it. Like there's always going to be a thought in the back of the mind of Saint fans and New Orleans natives that you ain't real. And I don't know. Are the Saints making a mistake like bringing him back in 2025? I mean, I understand from a contractual standpoint, but as far as a playing standpoint, do you think it's a mistake? Because it don't seem like neither party, I'm talking about fans and Derek Carr, don't want to be here. Don't want him to be here. He don't want to be there.
Well, TJ, I think it's a mistake, bro. I'm going to be honest with you. The guy that brought him here is gone. They fired Dennis Allen. That was his number one protector. You bring in Kellen Moore. You want to let that guy establish and get his own quarterback, whether he's going to trade for a guy, draft a guy. Don't tie him to the old quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And then that's one point. Contractually speaking, bro, we could not afford this man when we brought him on to the team. It was Mickey Loomis being irresponsible with the money, like he's been over the last several years bringing him in here. It hasn't worked. It's been a failed experiment. He's barely above 500 with wins. He's been hurt the last couple of years. It's not totally on him. It's just a lot of stuff, man. As he gets older, I don't see his play going up like that, like talking about. Yeah, he has a lot of fundamental issues. We talk about it all the time. With him staring down one side of the field, he's not as fundamentally as solid as you want. I talk about Clint Kubiak when he came here last year about him speeding up Derek Carr. He talked about speeding him up. He talked about his footwork, getting his footwork together. And I'm like, this guy's a 12-year veteran making $100 million. How bad is that for the guy to come in? Now you got somebody else coming in to try to get him to do it. Now, TJ, I do think it's a bad proposition on those accounts. But also, if you switch it to the other side, if you before I even go there, let me just say this. And Derek Carr doesn't want to be here. That's obvious. That he doesn't want to be here. That's very obvious that he doesn't want to be here. Mickey Loomis is forcing it. That's a mistake. And if you wanted an opposite spectrum of getting it to be successful right away, you got to put him into play action, TJ. Yep. That's the only thing you can't let him be the primary guy to guide your offense. He has to be behind the running attack. You have to, get that running attack going and get him into play action if you're going to have success. Because, like I said, man, he got a lot of stuff. He got a lot of positives, but it's to go to the next level of quarterbacking for this guy. He has to fix that. He has to go through these progressions. He has to develop more of a crisp clock in his head to understand what to do. And he wouldn't check the ball down so much if he progressed and he went through his progressions, bro. He wouldn't check it down 5 to 7 times a game. He wouldn't do it, but those things are just so glaringly obvious. But I mean, that's up to the OC and these guys to do it. And I think Mickey Loomis probably talked them into it. It's a bad bet all around, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that both sides just need to cut ties. And, what Derek Carr does. Like I said, Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback to a point where, he's not salvageable. He is a starting quarterback. But I also feel like there are some teams out there that are already like kind of a finished product. They just need somebody to be that trigger man. Like they got a running game. They got a solid defense. Like he needs too many things around him in order for him to thrive. Like
he need everything around him to thrive.
Like he need the perfect circumstance. You need the defense to generate some turnovers. He needs a half of a field. He needs a running game. He needs a good offensive line. Like, and that's fair. You know, like everybody can't be Mahomes. Everybody can't be Breeze. Everybody can't be Josh Allen. There's levels to this, right? There's a reason why we revere these guys. But I just think that what the Saints need right now and what they're trying to do in order for them to be consistently competitive, he's just not the guy. And he's just not a good fit. Like, you know, I just think that it was Mickey Loomis trying to appease Dennis Allen. I don't know what in the world was Dennis Allen thinking to bring in a guy, you know, that I don't know, man. You actually lost your job, you know what I'm saying? Like when he was the quarterback on the team and you bring him back and, you know, I don't know, man. That just doesn't make much sense to me. But let's go ahead and move on, man. We talked about the quarterback position coaches. Let's talk about the NFL draft, man, because, you know, the Saints are in one of those positions where they can pick anything and people would give them a golf clap. You know what I'm saying? Like you pick a quarterback. Yeah. All right. Good answer. Running back. Yeah. Good answer. But, you know, there's several talented players in the NFL draft. Saints got the 9th pick in the draft. What are your thoughts? What do you think the Saints should do with that 9th pick? I'm pretty sure like you didn't thought about it. And, you know, you think about these possibilities of bringing somebody in that can change the misfortunes on the offensive side, defensive side. What say you, Q? What do you think about the 9th pick?
Well, bro, I'm a guy that believes in building from the inside out. So, I mean, I think, and that's some of the Saints. You can see the Saints early on in free agency, they started to kind of look at building up the defense. They were looking interiorly to go along with the scheme ship on defense. Offensively, for the Saints, I think we need some help there. We don't have a starting left guard. Like I said, the offensive line coach is coming back from previous stint with the Saints, and I think that's a positive. He needs to press on some of these guys to get them to level up. I think Ruiz could be better. Tali Fuaga is awesome. I think Trevor Penning is headed in the right direction, bro. He still needs a little training, but he's headed in the right direction. I think McCoy just needs to stay healthy. And we need a left guard. We need somebody there. So if we fortunate enough to get a top flight offensive lineman in this draft, man, that falls to us 9, I think we really need to do that because, and I know a lot of people like the wide receivers. If Ted McMillan's there, if these other guys here, I know these are really talented players. But you have to remember, if the Saints are going to stick with Derek Carr at the quarterback position, you know Derek Carr is a little scary. You know that you don't need. Hey TJ, I'm being polite, bro. He said a little. Okay, a little. Say, bro, listen. Hey, that's what I'm saying, though, TJ, man. I'm saying, bro, we need to kind of look at that line. We really do, because I know the Saints are supposed to bring in an offensive lineman, bro, a free agent. They're looking at the guy, but just in case they don't sign the guy, I think we need to really look at our offensive line. And then our depth is an issue too. I know they're bringing back Will Clapp and these other guys, but I'm not really impressed with that. I think we need to kind of look at that there. So first pick that would probably be offensive lineman to me, bro.
Yeah, I'm not mad at the offensive lineman. I just think that, you know, people kind of ho-hum it because it's like it's not the sexiest pick, right? You know, people want to see those skill guys, the ones that can go out here, catch passes, you know, make somebody miss if they're running a football or throwing a football. But, you know, none of those things are possible if you don't have an offensive line. And I just think that Saints fans, they need to understand that. I mean, a lot of the issues that plagued the Saints was because they had that plug and play offensive line and they didn't have the dogs on that line consistently in order to protect whoever was back there. Right. So, I mean, I'm not mad at that. You know, I went to the combine. I talked to Will Campbell. I talked to Calvin Banks, 2 of the top offensive linemen there. And, you know, both of those guys, man, they're going to be picked pretty high. And I think that they are sure things, you know, and Will Campbell, he's an intriguing guy. He played left tackle, of course, at LSU, but people are like kind of concerned about his arm reach and, you know, does that resemble a left tackle? He could be that guy that could slide to the inside and be a really good guard for years to come. But yeah, I think that the Saints definitely need to fix this offensive line. I think that running the football is going to be key. And also, Q, this is a deep draft at the running back position, so you can have somebody that can accompany Alvin Kamara if you're not satisfied with what you have in the room with Kendre Miller or even Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this point. So yeah, I'm not mad at the offensive line at all, man. I just think that they definitely need to pay attention to it. I'm glad to see guys like Will Clapp come back. I think that he was a really good role guy, before he left and went with the Chargers. But you definitely want to get a guy that can possibly be a cornerstone guy. You need to get yourself, and fix that offensive line. But you talked about McMillan. He's going to be a high draft pick, especially running at 4.4 at his pro day. But there's some other like wide receivers out there if the Saints don't decide to go with McMillan, or even if a team decides that they want to go ahead and draft him before the Saints even pick. Looking at this wide receiver room, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, you got a couple more guys out there, Bub Means, Dante Pettis. Like none of these guys, for the most part, are kind of moving a needle, for the exception of Shaheed and Olave. Do you think that the Saints maybe need to look at maybe getting a young wide receiver? We know they tried to go after Cooper Kupp a couple of days ago. So what are your thoughts on, the Saints bringing in a wide receiver? Are you in favor of a veteran or a rookie?
I think both, TJ. I think if they can land Allen, who Kellen Moore has some experience in, bro. I think with the money available, I think the Saints can make that work. I think that will be a solid signing put next to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And of course, with the contract situation coming up on both those players, both Shaheed and Chris Olave, you would pay yourself a good service to look in the draft. Like you mentioned, this draft, it has a lot of talented wide receivers, bro. You talk about Trey Harris outside of just Ted. You talk about Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. You talk about I like Luther Burden. What's the other cats? Eric Ayamore. What's the kid from Stanford? The big wide receiver, physical wide receiver from Stanford, Savion Williams. There are quite a few guys that's out there that you can look at. So yeah, I think both would be a solid piece, to be honest with you, TJ, because we kind of top heavy in our wide receiver room, and then if injuries start peeling these guys off like they did last year, bro, it's thin pickings underneath. We don't know what we like the potential of Bub Means. I like what Pettis did, but still in all, we still need some more playmakers there, some futuristic players that can really step up and for the Saints in the wide receiver room. So I would be probably a mixture of both would be good.
Yeah, I'm in favor of like a veteran to come in, like maybe to provide like some type of like leadership, be a mentor to some of these younger guys.
Right.
But I do feel like, they definitely need to draft a young guy. And I just think there's been a while since we've seen a wide receiver that gives you what Michael Thomas did, which was a big body wide receiver that demanded a double team, that was physical, and, that can also help these other wide receivers go out there and eat. I mean, I think about out in Seattle, Tyler Lockett was successful, Smith and Jigba, because they had DK Metcalf over there demanding a double team. Same thing with Philadelphia, with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and all those other guys were able to eat because you had such a dynamic and physical specimen, in a 6'3", 6'4" wide receiver. So I just want to see them go back to that, man. I mean, the Saints offense has always been high powered when they have that big physical receiver. I mean, dating back with Marcus Colston. So I want to see them maybe draft a guy. It doesn't have to be Ted McMillan. Like I said, that's probably wishful thinking based on his pro day. But somebody that can be that big body guy that can go across the middle, that can absorb some of that contact from some of these cornerbacks, and it's going to be a tough outing for some of these guys. And I mentioned a cornerback. The Saints, they need one. I mean, Paulson Adebo goes to the New York Giants. You have Kool-Aid McKinstry. You got Rico Payton, who I felt like, played pretty well in special teams. And when he had the opportunity, kind of stepped up. You brought back Isaac Yiadom, but I feel like there's a huge void missing. I looked at this draft queue, not too many guys that are moving a needle, for the exception of maybe players like Travis Hunter and Will Johnson.
Yes.
Are you looking in the draft? Is there a guy out there that you think that maybe the Saints can get their hands on in free agency? What are they going to do with this cornerback position?
There are rumors mill right now about the cornerback position that they are done. I know they tried to reach at the guy from the Sanford for Ward from the Niners, and it didn't work out. Right, he got picked up by the Colts.
Right,
and they end up pivoting to Isaac Yiadom when he's 29 years old. TJ, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely the draft is something. They got some guys there, TJ, that you can. I mean, Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame.
Right.
There's Siobhan Revel Jr. from East Carolina. So they got a couple of people that I actually like that are pretty decent cornerbacks that can help you from a futuristic standpoint. Darion Porter, Quincy Riley's another really good. Some of these guys are big guys. Some of them are a little, like 5'11" for variety, but they play big. They're playmakers. Right. So I mean, Darren Strong for VTech is another guy. So there are quite a few guys that's out there. But I love. I don't think we'll get him, but Jahdae Barron from Texas is another dude, man. That's phenomenal, man. That dude was the winner. He won the top cornerback award in the nation. So there are quite a few of them, bro. That's out there that, depending on what the Saints are looking for, man, that we need. Because you're right, TJ. Cornerback and safety is something that we definitely could use. I mean, Tyron's getting a little older in age. We have. What's his name? Jordan Howden back there. Yeah, JT is more like a special teams guy, so you still need some safety help back there, bro. So yeah, DB, cornerback, and safety is definitely a position at some point. But all these damn picks, TJ, I know you ain't gonna take all of them. Some of them you're gonna trade, but make the ones count.
Yeah. I was taking a look, Q, at some of the available cornerbacks that they have. I mean, you got Awuzie. He played pretty well.
Yes.
He's 29 years old. You still got Stephon Gilmore. I mean, he's up there in age, but I mean, he provides some level of leadership. Mike Hilton, and I think the one person that a lot of people have been talking about has been Asante Samuel Jr. Like you mentioned, Keenan Allen, playing for the Chargers. I mean, Brandon Staley has a rapport with him. He was his coach during the time, so that's somebody that the Saints could be on the lookout for as well. And honestly, as time goes by, there's a better chance that the New Orleans Saints can acquire someone like Asante Samuel, because the market kind of dries up a little bit going into the draft, because maybe teams are going into the draft feeling as if maybe we can select the guy that we want. So there's still some picks out there that they maybe can sign, but I want to see this team get younger. I think the biggest issue with the Saints had last year, they lost the battle of attrition, of course, but I think that you would have been able to kind of weather the storm if you would have drafted better. And that's another question I have for you. I've been asking people, that I talk to, what has been the biggest issue with this team? Like, has it been Jeff Ireland's inability to draft, or is it the fact that he has drafted really good players, but the Saints haven't found a really good fit for him? And, you're looking at some of these other players find success elsewhere. I'm wondering to myself, like, what is it about this football team that they can't get the best out of some of these players, but other teams can? Like, what is it? What are your thoughts on Jeff Ireland, the draft process? Or do you think that he is a good scout? I mean, what do you think about that?
Jeff Ireland's a respected scout, and they got a pretty decent team, bro. They're going out and they're finding these players. I think a big part of the fact that the Saints were able to bring on, like you mentioned, a guy like what's his name, linebacker we just lost to the Eagles. What's his name? I forgot. Zach Bond. I'm sorry. He had a little brain fart, but yes.
I want to forget he over there too, man. The way you've been playing.
But see, bro, they had the scouts found him and told the Saints about him. They drafted him, but the Saints did not, acclimate him properly into the defense. They did not know how to use him. So I think a big part of it is the scouts find the talent for you. The team still has to be able to, in a quick time frame, be able to take these said players and then acclimate them as quickly as they possibly can into the system based on the time frame that you have when you sign these players. You don't have forever in a day. So you get these guys as fast as you get. That is, I think, where the Saints are having some issues with getting these guys acclimated, and that's due to vision. That's tied to head coaching. The coach, a lot of times, you get these players, TJ, and they don't know what to do with them. They know they're talented, and they waste all of this time. The Trevor Penning thing is an indictment of them, like him being drafted in the first year, played one game. Second game, they threw him in a position he couldn't play. 6 games, then bottomed him out, had backups coming in, playing for him, that kind of thing. Threw him in there for the third year, and really that was his first year, almost like his first year of actually doing anything. He played the entire season, but he's a couple of years behind in his development. Imagine if that wasn't the case and he was properly set in motion. You could be dealing with a very dominant player right now. So I just think it's inside is the coach's inability to be able to have the imagination to kind of add these players into the system properly in a timely manner.
Yeah, I look at it this way. Okay, so let's just say we playing basketball. You have a basketball player, you end up getting drafted, Q, and let's just say your game has been like the mid-court game, right? I mean, that's what got you drafted. You know, team needs a person that can have a real good mid-court game. So all of a sudden they draft you, and they like, okay, you're gonna be our Steph Curry. Like, wait a minute here, you know what I'm saying? Look, I can shoot a 3 every now and then, but I ain't about to just pull up from half court and shoot that thing, you know. And let's just say like they put you in to shoot these 3s, and all of a sudden break. Like, and they turn around and say to you, man, what are you doing, man? You can't shoot a 3. Like, that's not my game. Like, so I think a lot of the issues that the Saints have had, because they're spending so much time trying to put a square peg into a round hole, I like to call it. Right?
That's a good term. That's a good term.
Wasting time, Q. Like, think about this. Okay, so if you have a player like Isaiah Foskey, for example, right? This man has been like a stand-up, you know, type of linebacker / defensive end when he was at Notre Dame. That was how his bread was buttered. That's the reason why you draft him, because of athletic ability and skill. You got him in the game basically doing something that he didn't even do, right? But everybody's looking at him, and Dennis Allen talking about, I need to see more out of him. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this man is learning something completely different. Right. So, I mean, 2-3 years being wasted, turning him into something that he is not, and he ends up being it. But by the time that happens, he's up for a new contract. And I just think that they need proven products. Like this guy, like on the bottom of the screen here, Michael Williams. This is a proven product. This guy has played in some of the biggest games in college football. He has played on a major stage. These are the type of guys. Yeah, Q, these are the type of guys that they need to focus on. Like, you can't be half-stepping through this mug and expect for these dudes to just be everything that you want them to be. And since that has happened, Q, I promise you, I have not really been critical of these players, especially young guys. Because when you see Zach Bond, when you see Trey Henderson, when you see these guys go to other teams and just ball out, it's like, damn, Jeff Ireland is picking the right guys. It's just not a good fit. And it's unfortunate to watch, man. But look, when I think about Zach Bourne, I was talking to Mike Detillier the other day. He made a really good point. He said, even though we look at Zach Bourne and we see what he's doing for Philly, we didn't think that he had that in him. It's kind of similar to with Demario Davis, right? Demario Davis played for Cleveland, played for the Jets, then he came to the Saints. Now think about how many Jets fans watch Demario Davis every single year and say, dang, man, they made a mistake getting rid of him. You know, so I mean, I guess that happens, but man, it just makes the team just basically look bad. And then you combine the feelings and the views that people have for Mickey Loomis right now. Like, my goodness, you know, like it just amplifies things, you know, but they're going to have to figure this thing out, man, especially like running this 3-4. Now, they brought back Chase Young, and, you know, Chase Young, he has the ability to be able to play that outside linebacker and put his hand on the ground. But people have been talking about the contract, like the contract that Chase Young got. Do you think that you know, the contract that the Saints gave him was a tad bit too high? Do you think that he'll be able to live up to that contract?
Man, it was a gamble, TJ, for him to do it, for them to bring him in here in the first place, because it's going to be interesting, because I know you look at the contracts, it was a tad bit high for Chase Young. And I think a lot of them, but they're justifying it based on the market value for that player at that position and the money. So that's what they're looking at. But I think the Saints had it on their mind. They were going to ink Chase Young, period, when they decided not to trade him at the trade deadline like they did Marshawn Lattimore last year. True. They were going to give him his bread. But I think it was a bit of a gamble, bro. And we'll see what he can do. 5.5 sacks last year. I think a lot of people was just strictly surprised, bro, that he played as many games as he did.
Yep.
To be quite honest with you, that's the first thing. I think the family members just wanted him to. Let's just keep this guy available, see what he can do. So I mean, him and Carl Granderson there is going to be interesting to see what they look like in that 34 look. And then of course you're missing Isaiah Foskey, who also is slotted at that backup linebacker position. I think he's behind Chase Young according to the unofficial depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy, TJ, you made mention of, bro. This guy was the all-time sacker. He's the sack master at the University of Notre Dame. He leads them, and that's not a sour stat to look at. If that's a pretty credible stat to have, that you own the sack record at Notre Dame, but yet and still, TJ, he in his third year, bro. Yeah. In his third year, he got, I think he got like a half a sack. And he coming into his third year. See, so it's just more, bro, veritas for what your point is. Yeah, they got to fix it.
Yep. They got to fix it, and they got to allow these guys to be themselves. Like if you're gonna keep them on the team, Q, like let them be themselves. Like Alontae Taylor put out a tweet like once they hired Kellen Moore, he said, "Just let me be the dog." I'm paraphrasing, but basically, let me be the dog that I was born to be. Like let me be able to make plays. And
that's interesting.
If you look at the beginning of the season when they had Alontae Taylor basically just kind of roaming around, I mean, he was playing some really good football. Like you could make an argument for at least about 4 or 5 weeks. Like he one of the best slot corners in football. And that's crazy to even say because people were like very, very nervous about this dude moving from the outside to the slot. And of course, like he made that speech about being patient and, it might be a little bit of a change and I might give us some plays, but I ain't going to quit. Like all that stuff right there. But he started living up to it. So I just think that they need to allow these players to be themselves, man. Like I just feel like Dennis Allen, he had his philosophies and the way the defense needs to be ran. And he didn't want these guys to step outside of, what he feels like they need to do. But if you got a hybrid, a guy that's capable of doing a multifaceted of things, man, you don't keep a thoroughbred in a barn, man. You let them go out there and run. So
that's right.
So I like that they're going to bring back Chase Young. And, I hope that Isaiah Foskey can do something, man. I don't want to see nobody be drafted that high. You mentioned like the all-time sack leader at Notre Dame. Like think about the rich tradition of Notre Dame. All the great players that came through that spot. And this man is the all-time sack leader. That's incredible, man, to even be considered or even have that record, man. Over 100 years of football being played at Notre Dame, and he got the sack record. That's incredible.
He the top dog, bro. And like I said, the Saints did a good job because remember when they drafted him, the focal point was they wanted a defensive end. They know in the second round they were going defensive end. The thing was, I think the Saints learned a lesson because when they took Peyton Turner, they were looking in the form of the mode of Marcus Davenport, which I thought was Marcus Davenport is you don't look for the template of Marcus Davenport. He hadn't done anything but been unavailable. Right. So they drafted Peyton Turner based on that. The Isaiah thing was based on Cam Jordan. They were looking at a player that was close, mirrored Cam Jordan. They picked him. They just did not put him. They did not acclimate him properly. I think going back to Chase right quick, TJ, when they offered him the bread, they knew they basically gave up on Peyton Turner. I mean, Peyton Turner was in this last year, and the Saints basically understood that. We took 2 first-round draft pick defensive ends that are going to be busts for us, and then we took a second-round defensive end, hadn't acclimated them properly. They just kiboshed the deal, went into free agency, took Chase Young. He failed the physical. It turns out with Carolina Panthers, they ended up going in a different direction. We ended up getting him here 2 days after signing. He was the Saints leaked it out that he was having back surgery and was like, oh, here we go again. He rehabbed, came back, played a full season. That's shocked the out of me. But 5.5 sacks tied with Granderson when Brian Brissett had the 7.5 sacks. So I mean, it appears that he's headed in the right direction. He's kind of heading and inclining. So we'll see. He wanted the contract, bro. He earned it. 3 years. Let's see what he can do. But what would be your estimation of would be successful in his years? Would 30 sacks in 3 years be successful? 25 sacks in 30. What do you perceive as would be successful for him, bro? In terms of 24 sacks in 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, I would say like at least have double-digit sacks 2 out of the 3 years. Like I'm,
Okay.
I just think that this is a defense where Brandon Staley is going to allow you to be yourself, right?
That's right.
I think he checked the box that a lot of people wanted him to check, which is can he stay healthy? And he did, and
You
I
did.
also think it's also a combination, Q, of the New Orleans Saints giving him an opportunity. Like what other
Yes.
teams kind of wrote him off. I mean, he had to get neck
Yes.
surgery. A lot of teams were like, I don't know about this right here. But the Saints actually committed to him. And I feel like I don't yeah, I'll say it. He felt like he owed it to the organization that took a chance on him to go out
Mhm.
there and do his best. And
Mhm.
once the Saints fired Dennis Allen, they had Brian Young as the defensive lines coach. That's when you really start to see him come through.
That's
So
right.
the Saints changing around, bringing in the defensive line coach from LSU who has a really good reputation
Love that move.
of developing guys and being a really good teacher. And I just think that is a really good recipe. And you know that he's going to allow Chase Young to be himself. So look, but to answer your question, yeah, he got to have double digit sack 2 out of 3 years. Like they paid him like that was the case. So you got to be able to live up to that. You got to be able to live up to it. Let's go ahead and look at the chat. Let's see what they have to say. Let's take a few questions from the chat. You mind, Q?
No problem, TJ. You got it, my brother.
Okay, all right. We're gonna go with Brandon. Brandon says, "I'm curious to see how the offense looks. Said that side of the ball has been a weak link the last few years. So, I mean, the offense has been a little bit stale, man. Like some chips left out on the counter for 24 hours. but 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 what do you think can improve? I mean, we know that health would play a huge role, but
Yes.
looking around the landscape, you mentioned the offensive line, but Kellen Moore, and his philosophy.
Yes.
What I learned about him, Q, is he has a little bit of Sean Payton in him in this regard. Like Sean Payton utilized players' strengths. Like he looks around, see what a player does well, and he utilizes that. Like can Kellen Moore, I guess, breathe some life into this offense? This is so crazy that we having this conversation. Will we be having this conversation like
every year?
2017? Like talking about the Saints not having a good offense is just unbelievable, man.
Yes,
But
it is.
here we are. But what are your thoughts on the offense, man? How can they get it done?
Bro, they have to establish identity up in front, TJ. That's the main the thing. What are we going to be? Are we going to be a running team, a passing team? What is the identity of the team? Once we establish the identity of the team, we can then fulfill that. And then, I think, like I said, the games are won and lost in the trenches. So empowering, like we talk about him coming from Philadelphia, them being able to run the ball as good as they did. They had a smash you in the face running attack. Those offensive linemen would smash you down, and we have guys that are good. We just need to level this up. We need to beef up our offensive line. We need to really kind of reprogram, the mindset of our offensive line. We need to be more meaner and nastier to play behind that. And I think I trust more our running with Elvin and our offensive line than I do our quarterback. No disrespect to Derek Carr, but I just think with a guy like Elvin Kamara. And what we could do from an offensive standpoint, even with Taysom Hill there. I mean, if you use him in that role, I think I trust that more than just putting the ball in Derek Carr's hands. So I think if we beef up that offensive line and gather that mean, nasty temperament that Philly had, like we're a running team and we're going to throw the ball after we run the ball down your throat, that type of thing. And I think that's how you start to establish success every Sunday, bro. I think that's the path, and we hadn't seen that.
Yeah. I definitely feel like the running game and a really good offensive line is key. I mean, because we know that Derek Carr, he's a really good play action quarterback, man. And if
He's excellent, bro.
Yeah, and if the running game is finding success, then the guys got to creep up in that box, man. And that sets up explosive plays with Shaheed, with Olave. That's what's going to get you where you need to be, man. Getting that running game going. But like you said, you got to have the big hog mollies up front, man, doing their thing, handling up on business. And I just think that's going to be the key. I don't care what you got. I don't care if you bring in Randy Moss on one side, Jerry Rice on the other.
Right.
Like if you don't have offensive line, man, that can hold up for that quarterback, like they not gonna see the ball. So yeah, you definitely got to fix that offensive line. Let's see. Jerry says, TJ, we got to hear from Reverend Saint tonight from Big Q.
I knew. What's up, OG? OG in the building. Shout out to OG.
OG, man. He be everywhere, man. Yeah, shouts out to OG, man. He been supporting this channel for a long time, man. Nothing but respect for him. Yeah, for real. Says this question is for Mickey Q. How the hell do you bring back Cedric Wilson, and are the prices of nachos going up?
Mickey Q, huh? Oh, okay. Hold on, guys. Hold on. TJ, could you put that back up there, please? Hold on. I see what's going on there. Hold on. All right. So let's see. Cedric Wilson, he's a good player. Hold on. And I just felt like, it's a big party. And everybody can get some of this money. And hold on. We restructured everybody, brought them all back. And we all know you guys ignore it. But I'm telling you, the reason why we lost, hold on now, is because of the injuries. And you guys know it. And hold on. The price of nachos is definitely going up. Just to let you know.
Everything going up but the win.
That's right. TJ, you already know, baby.
Everything going up but the win percentage. God dog,
everything going up, brother. It's going up.
Yeah, okay. So that's a question too. What do you think about some of this increase in ticket sale? It take your boy John O'Barnes to talk about it. But he talked about the Pelicans tickets going up as well as the Saints tickets. What are your thoughts? The Saints haven't made the playoffs in about 4 seasons,
4 years,
and the Pelicans, man, they couldn't make the playoffs if they, man. I don't know. It just ain't happening. I don't know what's going on over there. But what's your thoughts on like them raising these ticket prices?
It's a slap in the face of the mighty Who Dat Nation, man. The diehard supporters, man, that raised this team up and put it on their shoulders. I think these people have lost their way. I think we've given them everything. I often talk about this, TJ, the economics behind the Saints and the stuff that's going on with the money with the arenas, the domes, and and all this type of stuff. Right. We've given them everything, man. I mean, if you look at it, we've given them everything. And I think this is a slap in the face. I think the prices should be going down. These teams are not as good as they're indicated. And it is an absolute disrespect for the supporters and the mighty Who Dat Nation and the Pelican family members to deal with this, bro. It's an insult.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I mean, you gotta have some cojones for you to do something like this. Like, but I understand Saints fans, they love their team. Like, you should love the Saints. But at the same time, the organization needs to understand that you got to give Saints fans something to cheer about. Like, you can't take advantage of people's love and passion for the team and raise these prices, man. Like, if you're going to do that, you want to put a product on the field that people can be proud of. And, you know, and this is something that I mentioned too on the last episode. When the Saints used to play football on Sundays, rather you watching a game on TV or you at the dome, you felt as if you was about to see the Saints put 2 foots in somebody. You know, like you that's how you felt. Like it didn't matter who they were playing. Like you didn't have, like, I don't care how good that team was. I can remember like them playing against the 49ers you know, in one year. It was, I think, when they lost like 48-46, that offensive explosion. As good as the 49ers was that season, everybody felt like the Saints could beat them. Like, but now it's like Saints got to play the 49ers or the Saints got to play the Eagles. Like, man, I don't know if I want to watch this game. You know what I'm saying? I want to see my team go out like this. You got to give Saints fans something to cheer about, man. Like, this is uncharted waters for a lot of Saints fans. Like, they not used to seeing this type of product. It's so crazy, Q, because, you know, growing up as kids, man, the Saints wasn't very good. But now it's like you got your mid-20s, early 30 Saints fans that they're feeling like this the Great Depression of 1929 around here. You know, like man, what's going on here? Like we from the penthouse to the outhouse here. So look, I just think that they need to put a better product on the field. I think they should have thought about that, you know, before they were talking about raising these ticket prices, because a lot of fans might feel alienated, you know, the fact that you would to do something like this and, you know, you ain't really putting no positive product on the field.
Right. I agree, bro.
Yeah, let's see. 504 says, I lost my pockets more than the Saints. I'm sorry. He says you might have a half empty arena if they try to bring a hockey team there, especially during football season. Is there talk about bringing a hockey team to New Orleans? I've been hearing this quite often.
Yeah, it's a rumor, TJ, that they're thinking about a hockey team down here. I don't know, bro. I don't know how they look. I know that they were talking about baseball, doing the baseball thing for a while. That's been bad, kind of thrown around, but it's just a rumor up to this point. I don't know how it worked though.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. I just don't think that like hockey really does numbers in the South. Like it's more like a northern sport, northeast type sport. I mean, it's pretty popular, but it's kind of tough to kind of find traction. I mean, I want to say like in Dallas, they had the Stars and stuff like that, but I mean, in the South, it just seems like it's not as popular. I don't know if they're going to be able to generate the type of revenue that they want.
Right.
Like my final question for you is just about the New Orleans Saints in this 2025 season. Like, what are your expectations for this team? Do you think they have what it takes to possibly be a contender in the NFC South? That's not saying much, right? But do you feel like they can contend? Do you think that it's kind of wishful thinking on Mickey Loomis's behalf to feel like this team could possibly win more than 7 games?
To be honest with you, TJ, I don't know what the plan is. You got to have a plan, and it just seems like bringing everybody back because you felt like injuries stifled the season, this type of thing. And I often railed against that, bro. I said that injuries wasn't the main reason why the Saints were a failure. It was poor coaching. It was not. It was coaching and people not being accountable. There was backstabbing and lying going on, and people throwing people under the bus. And that's what happened when you have that type of environment. And people like Elvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore, those guys were railing against that. Right. And Loomis and what's his face was trying to get rid of the guy for talking up for the culture of the city. Like, this ain't what we're about. We're winning, this type of thing. So I still think Loomis doesn't know what he's doing. And if it's going to be successful, it have to all fall on the inexperienced shoulders of Kellen Moore. And I'm not trying to take anybody's dreams away from him, because the Saints could very well have success based upon the fact that, like I talked about, the identity. That's the number one focal point for Kellen Moore coming in here. He has to establish an identity. The Saints did not have an identity in the 3 years that Dennis Allen was the chairman of the guy running the team. They didn't have an identity. Yep. You can't win without an identity. You got to have a code of ethics and an identity to play behind. And if you don't have that, you will be beat consistently by teams that have identity and code they play behind. That's just how it goes. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, TJ.
Yeah. I mean, I call it dark skin on Viv, light skin on Viv, right? I mean, it's like,
okay. Explain that, bro. It's dark.
Okay. So, like dark skin on Viv, she was the one that started the show, was on there for a few seasons. And then all of a sudden they bring in a light skin on Viv. And, they didn't look the same. They didn't dress the same. Nope. Like dark skin on Viv was a professor. Like, she had a storyline. Light skin on Viv was just there. This is what I'm saying. Like, the Saints are trying to masquerade former culture and try to make it seem like this is modern culture. Like, Sean Payton and Drew Brees did back in the day, that was the culture. That was their culture. But the Saints, to me, it's like they trying to make the same type of culture with unusual suspects. You mentioned Alvin Kamara, Marshawn Lattimore. What's the difference between Lattimore and some of those guys in the locker room? They have been to the playoffs. They have been on the threshold of a Super Bowl. They know what prosperity looks like. Mm-hmm. These other guys, they don't know that. Like Alontae Taylor, Shaheed, they don't know what it's like to win a division and go to the playoffs. They ain't never did that. Right. So for you to sit up here and say, "Oh, there's a standard," like, you can say there's a standard, but they don't know the type of standard you're talking about. They unfortunately, the standard that they have in a Saints uniform is losing. Exactly. So once again, you cannot make light skin on Viv look like dark skin on Viv. You can't make people feel like, oh man, it's the same person. It's not. It's a different culture. So they need Kellen Moore to establish his own culture, wherever that culture may be. They need to completely eliminate that. That's the problem, Q. They still living in the past. They still living in the past. They still feeling like they close. They going to Vegas, putting it all on black. They letting it ride. They losing money. I'm talking about fist full of cash. They still up here trying to play. Like, you got to come to grips with reality, man. And the reality is you're not a good football team right now. Saints fans don't want to admit that, Q, but that's the reality. The Saints aren't the Saints that a lot of you have grown accustomed to seeing. That's eventually, if you start losing like this, you're going to start sounding like the Cowboys. Oh, we got 5 Super Bowls. Like, man, Will Smith stood in a living room with no furniture on the final episode of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, since we want to talk about Fresh Prince. That was the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl. Will Smith standing in the living room. Yes. 1995 was the final season of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, you would link them two together, wouldn't you?
And that was the last time the Cowboy won a Super. I'm not trying to be like that, man. I don't want to keep on using, man. We had Drew Brees. Like, no. Build your own culture. That's all I'm saying, man. Build your own freaking culture. Like, stop trying to live off dark skin on Bill.
That's right.
Light skin on Bill. God bless her, man. A really good, nice lady. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to her husband, Tim Reed. You know what I'm saying? I remember WKRP and Sister.
That's her husband, TJ. I didn't know that, bro.
Tim Reed.
Bro, WKRP in Cincinnati, Tim Reed. Yeah, Vita's Fly Trap.
Hey. Hey, man, look, but yeah, I mean, well, like a real nice lady, but she ain't the dark skin Aunt Viv, and that's all I want people to understand, man.
But, I love it, bro. Love that, bro. I love that. That was beautiful, TJ. I love that, man.
I had to bring it all together, man. But
you did it good, bro. That was excellent, bro. I was like dark skin. Okay, all right. I like that, bro. Because the light skin on Biff, she ain't have no, bro. She was just there, bro.
No storyline.
No storyline at all, brother.
No storyline. Every now and then you'll see her coming through there with a little tennis outfit. Her and Phil plays some tennis.
She had an attitude too. What was the attitude about, TJ? She had like an attitude. She ain't really bring nothing to the show.
Man, I don't know what. Look, she was just there, man. She was just there. Like I said, man, great lady. Like she's a well-respected actress, but I'm telling you, man, dark skin Aunt Viv, she had storyline. Everybody remember. You remember that episode when she went to that dance studio and throw it down. You know what I'm saying?
Throw it down in that gray. What was it? A gray outfit she was doing, and she told them girls, the young girls, TJ, you the man with that snap.
Get there with that snap.
Yeah. That's like the mic. That's like the mic drop moment right there on the. That was fine, man.
But like I said, man, building your own culture is what the Saints indeed need to do. But Q, man, thank you so much for stopping by the State of Saints podcast, man. It's always a pleasure.
Always great
to
bro.
link up with you. Before you go, just let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
First of all, appreciate you, my brother, as always, man. Me and you been talking for a long time, man. I respect what you got going on, bro. You got a great platform. Shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. You guys are terrific. And if you want to holler at me, I'm on at the Sports Coma or the whodatdaily.com. That's where we located at. Thank you, bro.
All right. So make sure that y'all check out Big Q on those platforms, man. Support these Saints podcasters like Q, man, and so many others that work extremely hard, man, trying to put together really great content. And Q, man, from the bottom of my heart, man, I appreciate you stopping by. And, man, just all the work that you do, man. I mean, just keep up the good work. Keep grinding hard, man, because, you know, man, a lot of fluff be going on out here, man. I'm just being honest, a lot of fluff, man. A lot of fluff pieces. But, you know, the Who Dat Nation, they need people to stand on business and triple down on what's going on, man. And you definitely one of those individuals that is needed, man. So I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, brother. Y'all have a blessed night. And TJ, I'll let me later, brother.
I will, man. Thank you so much, Q. Yeah, peace. And also shouts out to the Who Dat Nation, man. Much love to each and every one of you. Once again, shouts out to Big Q for stopping by. You can follow yours truly on X at TJAY Jones 8. Also, you can check out NFC South Roundtable. That is available. Also, Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones. That's available every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Man, we got a good lineup set up for you all next week as well, man. Got my girl Aisha Morrison. She covers the Dallas Cowboys. She'll be stopping by, talking to us a little bit about Kellen Moore and her experience. And also, man, I just got this official. James Scametta will be on the show next week. We'll be sitting down with Scamizzi, talking a little bit about the Big Easy. You feel me? Yeah, man, it's gonna be a good, a real pleasure to speak with James Scametta, man. Guys doing it in a major way, man. One of the best, reaction videos that you're ever going to see. Great lane that he set up for himself. Great content. So we're going to be sitting down with him on next week as well. We'll try to get some more guests as time goes on. A couple of friends of mine, a couple friends to the room. So keep it locked here to the State of the Saints podcast for all your up-to-date information pertaining to the New Orleans Saints. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat?